Please be seated. A Zen monastery was under attack by an infamous warlord and his army, and all the monks fled, except for the abbot, who sat peacefully in front of the shrine. The warlord entered the courtyard and approached, pulling out his sword. He shouted at the abbot, "Don't you know that I'm the sort of man who could run you through with my sword without batting an eye?" And the Zen master, the abbot, smiled and replied, "And I am the sort of man who could let you run me through with your sword without batting an eye." And the warlord bowed and slowly backed out of the courtyard. Those of us who have lived long enough in this world know that all too often it goes the other way, that the warlord runs the abbot through with his sword and ransacks the monastery. Or the tanks bulldoze the students in Tiananmen Square. Or the bullet assassinates the civil rights leader addressing followers from a hotel balcony. Or armed federal agents shoot peaceful protesters. Sometimes, though, it's just enough to make the abbots, the civil rights leaders, the peaceful protesters just disappear mysteriously, never to be heard from again. John the Baptist was one who disappeared, arrested for calling out Herod for an immoral marriage to his sister-in-law. Later, of course, we find out that he too was a victim of the sword. And that was the impetus for Jesus to act. In today's gospel reading, we are told that he withdrew to the northern part of Galilee, and Matthew makes the point specifically that he went to the territories of Zebulun and Naphtali to settle in Capernaum. Now, the geography is significant and had historic importance in Jewish understanding because Zebulun and Naphtali are the two territories that had been conquered by Assyria, leading to the collapse of the northern kingdom of Israel. Those were the two lost tribes. The conquest was brutal, involving atrocities that erased swaths of the population, and thousands of Israelites were forcibly removed. The territory was made into a province of Assyria, becoming, in Isaiah's words, the Galilee of the Gentiles. Isaiah predicted that in this particular area of darkness and destruction, a light would emerge. The people would be liberated from the yoke of their oppressors. By the time of the gospel, this region was a backwater, largely forgotten by the political regimes to the south. It was a place to pass through on the way to somewhere else. And the only thing it had going for it was a thriving fishing industry. It is here, in this neglected, historically oppressed backwater, that Jesus came, and it is here that he began his work by calling helpers. First Andrew and Peter, and then James and John. 3 of the 4 became his most trusted disciples, the ones who followed him through thick and thin, the ones not afraid to question him and to receive both his praise and his reproofs. Now, frequently we read this passage and interpret it to be a call to evangelism. "Come and I will make you fishers of men," said Jesus. And then I think, after that our minds sort of go and think about all the ways in which we can be fishers of the people and get more folks in the pews. And that is a convenient and traditional way to think about this passage. However, it domesticates and sanitizes the radical nature of the gospel and diverts us into safe metaphors of nets and fish and water and all of that. What we think is a safe and sanitized call to grow our membership instead was an urgent call for ministry. For in the very end, we see that Jesus and the four were involved in proclaiming the kingdom of God, where service is the key to greatness, where they were teaching and they were healing. The ones being fished were those in most need of hearing about liberation, those most in need of being healed. The work was service, not grow the ranks. Oh, the ranks grew, and it became a movement. And eventually Jesus, like John, was arrested, was also disappeared, and was executed. But Jesus showed that death was not the final answer in response to those sword bearers of the world. Now, this is not to say that swords don't hurt. They do, they're pointy. So do bullets and chokeholds and batons and pepper spray and tear gas. To the sword bearers of the world, these things represent control and power. And most of the time, just the mention of them can stifle resistance. Until the warlords come up against abbots, people who have decided that there are worse things than physical death, such as leading lives of accommodation, of going along to get along, of staying alive and silent while others suffer. We have lived very sheltered lives for the past few decades. Such decisions about whether to be an abbot who stays, or a monk who flees, or a warlord with a sword have not played a part in our daily lives. We've had the luxury of looking away from these scenarios as they play out in other places, in other people's lives. Or we can send money and applaud those who do put themselves in harm's way in order to save others, such as the chefs of the world or Doctors Without Borders. They go with our support and blessing, and we stay safely at home. But our sheltered existence is crumbling. Neighbors are in hiding. They're afraid to go to school or come to church. A federal militia is being deployed, and they're told that they have the freedom to enter private homes without a warrant, or to stop people in the streets just to ask for proof of citizenship. And peaceful protests are met with violent crackdowns. And now, many of us are asking the question, am I a monk, an abbot, or a warlord? What is the Christian response in these times? In the days following the shooting of Rene Good, the Episcopal Bishop of New Hampshire told his clergy to get their affairs in order and to make sure that they have wills. And I quote, "Because it may be that now is no longer the time for statements, but for us with our bodies to stand between the powers of this world and the most vulnerable." This is what Jesus did after the arrest of John the Baptist. He went into the land of darkness, the land of Zebulun and Naphtali, and got busy ministering to the most vulnerable and forgotten of the time. And with his body, he healed, fed, taught. And when the time came for him to confront the authorities, he came to them as one who could be run through with a sword. Andrew and Simon, John and James, Magdalene, Martha and Mary, Stephen, Dorcas, Paul, Phoebe, the list of those called to be fishers of people, ministers to the forgotten, runs through the ages up till today. To heal, to serve, to feed, to stand in solidarity with prisoners and the oppressed. This is our calling as Christians. We are called to be abbots, ones who, without batting an eye, can be run through with a sword, or beaten, or shot, or arrested. Because we know that physical safety is not the same as everlasting life. We know that the kingdom of God is here if we choose to see it. And if we see it, we know that death is not the final answer. The warlords are in our communities. They may soon be at our doors. And may, with God's grace, may we receive them as abbots, armed with the weapons of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. These are weapons that will never tarnish, and these were weapons that will never be vanquished. In the name of Christ.